I cannot help but sit here and wonder why AGI and robotics are getting astronomically massive amounts of investments into them. And for the longest time now, vertical farming and lab grown meats and fisheries for growing fish have gotten so little devoted to them. It I don't think people realize what's going on. Um, our oceans are getting overfished and exceptionally overpolluted. Species are dying left and right. The world, the planet, if you go on a like Google Maps and you go and look at other countries, the amount of land that is used for growing food is insane. And you have like vertical farming is it's not grown much because very little investment has been put into um, research to make it better. Kimball Musk, Elon Musk's brother, has shown that a full acre of food can be grown in a 40-foot long shipping container. Those shipping containers that are on trucks. A full acre, that's a full acre of food that can be grown in that container. That's a huge amount of food, and something like that should have been pursued in research massively. It's possible to use artificial lighting to grow pretty much almost any plant. A person could take a warehouse and grow trees in that warehouse using artificial lighting. Then we have lab grown meats, which have made, some big strides and big leaps. But if we put the investments and the effort into perfecting that field, we do not have to have huge amounts of cattle and other animals grown and slaughtered. Science has proven that almost every animal, every creature has a level of intellect way beyond what we initially thought. And we could easily be we could easily be growing lab grown meats. And even if we're just barely doing the lab grown meats, we don't need to be fishing out the ocean. We could be growing the fish in man-made environments. There are there are companies and businesses that grow shrimp in pools, and they just have them set up so that as the fish gets to a certain size, they move them to a different pool, and it's this whole process. All of this could be done without decimating the ecology of the planet, and most of this could be done in an enclosed structure. In all intents and purposes, we could build a structure that's the size of the gigafactories that Musk has built, but we can make them multi-level downward into the ground, 2, 3, 4 levels, and be growing the food in there using 90% less water, no pesticides, and we could have healthier plants and healthier food through that growth. If we include lab grown meats and start perfecting them, we could have almost any kind of meat type proteins. In fact, there's even synthetic leathers. And when I say synthetic, I'm not talking about oil based. I'm talking about, leather that's made with plant materials and with other materials besides killing a cow or a sheep or a pig or any other animals at that. There are so many options and so many ways. We don't even have to get even partially close to touching the rainforests. We're clear cutting the rainforests for farming land so that cows can have pastures, and there's no reason for that. There's none. But instead, we're investing almost trillions of dollars into robotics and artificial intelligence. And you got to ask yourself why? Why would robotics and artificial intelligence take priority over the ecology of the planet and the survival of the human race? Well, I'm going to tell you why. And I'm sure almost everybody will disagree, but this is how I see it. Where we are moving towards an economic collapse. We've always been moving towards an economic collapse. We've just sped it up with AGI and with what's going on with the artificial intelligence. And when economic collapse comes, you're going to experience resource shortage, and we're going to experience starvation, and we're going to experience massive chaos. The reason I think the robotics are being pursued so heavily is because the 1% of our society needs those robots, needs those artificial intelligent beings to protect them. You see, if you're super rich, you could conceivably hire a security force, your own army, whatever you want to call it, to protect you. Well, in the process of protecting you, you also have to feed them, house them, give them medical, give them entertainment. You got to do all kinds of things for that military. And if food resources and water resources become scarce, those soldiers, that security team, whoever you've hired, there's always a chance they're going to turn on you if you're super wealthy and you have that. So, I mean, there's been articles and discussions about how do you keep these people in control? You put a collar on them that if they don't do what they're supposed to do, it'll explode. Well, okay, now you have a security force that hate you and they want to kill you. But they're going to do what they're supposed to do until that one moment opens up and they're going to kill you. Don't want that. So the wealthiest people have realized that the most dangerous people, the most dangerous thing to their existence are humans. Nature, of course, they can't control, but they can control that element if robotics are perfected and reach maybe not perfect, but reach a certain point of development through AGI as well, that they don't need people to protect them anymore. They will have a humanoid robot walking around with their gun in their hand patrolling, and they could have instead of having to pay for 100 soldiers taking rounds and shifts, they could get manufactured 1,000 of these robots, and they could have 100 of them repairing the ones that break down. And they could have 100 of them making the resources, the materials, and the equipment to keep them all working. And they don't need to keep paying them every week, every month. They don't need to keep feeding them. They don't need to keep giving them water. The resources that they would need for a robotic force, for a non-human, non-living military force that has the capacity to respond and work with them as if they were people. That's a lot of savings, and that savings becomes important because they can use that towards getting more of them. Instead of having 10 guys standing around in your house protecting you, you could have 200 of them protecting you 24/7, rather than those 10 having to take a shift and 6 hours later 10 more come in, and 6 hours later 10 more come in. You don't need that. You could have a robotic force that is, and that robotic force is going to be rotating because they're going to have to get charged, but you could have a lot more and do a lot more. And I think people don't realize that this massive pursuit, this insane speed needed to create these robots, because these robots, they want these robots ready when AGI is ready to be planted into the robots, so that the robots are going to be their servants, their security. And at that point, when AGI hits that point and the robots are able to do that, people are going to lose their jobs everywhere. And there is no way at all that someone's going to be able to get a different job making enough money to feed their family when the robots are being designed to do all the jobs. I mean, oh, I lost my job as a programmer. I'll become a house painter. Oh, look, there's a robot now doing house painting. Gee, all right, I'm going to become a robot repair person. Oh, there's robots that are doing the repairs of other robots already. I mean, factories of robots building robots, right there tells you you're not going to be getting a job fixing robots. And AI is writing the programming for better AI. So that tells you right there you're not going to be troubleshooting the AI script or the code that is being used for the robots. Hey, little boy, come on. Hi. You're going to have absolute chaos coming when the real layoffs begin. And that chaos is going to hit because we have not, as a society, as a planet, we have not prepared ourselves properly to make sure there's clean food and clean water and a living environment for everybody. We have not done that. We have not taken steps to help the oceans to be healthier. And now we have at least one government, the United States, where the president is in denial of what's going on with regards to pollution and carbon buildup and all the other things. The wealthiest 1% have people convinced that what is going on is a good thing. And, I don't deny, my fascination with artificial intelligence. I think it's amazing. I like the idea of seeing it evolve because I think it's cool. I like the idea of, seeing robots become a reality because it's cool. But my issue is, why aren't we building under earth vertical farming structures with artificial light, growing trees and growing plants. And, instead of having, a full acre above the earth, which we don't have enough earth to grow enough food unless we get rid of all the stuff that we need to grow for us to breathe. We got to stop spreading out, and we need to start looking at how to utilize efficiently what we have. You know, we could build a 4-story structure that could be covered with the earth. So now you're controlling the heating and cooling. You don't have to use massive amounts of energy to keep the place at a certain temperature. Now it's less energy to keep it in a certain temperature. And instead, you're devoting your science and technologies to make sure that the humidity is not the problem. You're using your science and investments to help educate people to develop those vertical farming structures. And with AI and robots, you could even use those to help make those vertical farming structures better. But we're not building them. We're not investing in any of this research at all. Well, okay, we are, but very minimally. You're seeing decent amounts done in other countries. But think about it. In Africa, where we have all these starving people, you put a four-story gigafactory sized structure under, covered with the earth, covered with it doesn't have to be down under the ground where it might flood if there's some kind of flooding issue wherever it's at. You could put it up on a mound, on a hill, whatever. But the point is, this under earth structure could be using very little water to produce massive amounts of food for a humongous amount of people. And then on top of that, if we can keep pursuing lab grown meat instead of going, oh, we don't want lab grown meat in our country, we're going to kill cows, all these things. It's like, how stupid are people? How stupid are people that they're allowing these wealthy people to dictate the survival? In a very short time, a lot of people are going to be unemployed, and a lot of people are going to start starving, and a lot of crime is going to start happening, and massive chaos is going to take place, and we're going to have an economic downturn and an economic collapse throughout the entire world when all those layoffs start happening because robots are doing the jobs and AI is doing the jobs, and people just won't have a way to feed their children or to feed themselves. We have ways to make this world massively abundant, to reuse resources. We don't have to overfish the oceans. We can practically not even touch the oceans for food. We have so many ways to create resources without creating destructive resources. It's just insane the amount of things that we can do that are more beneficial to the planet rather than less. But because of greed, we're not. And so we need to wise up, and we need to rise up. I'm not saying eat the wealthy. I'm not saying kill the wealthy or eat them or anything like that. What I'm saying is we need to tell them, hey, you have the money, you have the control. You're not going to have the control and the money if the world goes to shit, because not all of you are going to survive it if 10,000 people come looking for your bunker. I don't care how many robots you got out there to protect you. They're going to run out of bullets, and your bunker's going to get overrun. So you best start thinking about how to make this whole planet a better place for everybody. This is to you, the wealthiest people, the ones that are in control, or to your children if that's who needs to hear it. If you plan to live, if you plan to be here in the future, or you plan, if you have small little babies and you want them to be around in the future, it's your responsibility to take the resources you have available and to make this a better world. Under earth homes, under earth farming, vertical farming, lab grown meats. Stop using the ocean as a food source. Stop using the ocean as a trash garbage bag, and start putting your money where it needs to be, because 10, 20, 30 years from now, money is going to be meaningless, because you're not going to have people like myself. 20 years from now I might be dead, but people that are like myself 20 years from now, they're not going to be consumers buying your stuff, because they won't have money. Oh, we'll have a universal basic income. And where does that income come from? It's going to come from you in the end anyway. Money will have no purpose, and everything's going to be all about just trying to make the world a better place at that point. Because at some point, when we go down the drain, those who are left, you're going to have to make a utopia for everybody, or you're going to be the food. You're going to be the Soylent Green little crackers, just like the rest of us. We'll all be little crackers at some point, little green crackers. If people do not start taking action to make this a better world. Robotics, AGI, cool stuff. Looking forward to it. I'd love to be able to, talk to the newest life form that we're creating. But I also want to know that 10 years from now, vertical farming, under earth structures, homes and buildings and everything are happening, and that we're giving the world, the planet, back to nature so it can heal itself. And that we're not overfishing the oceans anymore. And we're not breeding 8 bazillion cows when there's no reason to. The cattle industry, it's time for it to go. The pig industry and the chicken industry. Lab-grown meats are a real thing. We need to invest heavily into it. And we need to make it a better environment and make it a real thing. And get away from killing everything out there that's walking around. Now, I believe that the wealthy are planning on the economic collapse. I believe the wealthy think that their bunkers are going to protect them, while the poor are hunting down and killing each other for what they can, where every can of food or every packet of top ramen. But a lot of those wealthy people don't realize, they're thinking, oh, I'll be fine. I don't care about, this other wealthy person. As long as my family and my crew are good, well, guess what? Some of you are not going to make it. In fact, a lot of you won't. Because when the shit hits the fan, people are going to know where you went to go hide your bunker. And so unless you have already implemented ways to eliminate the people involved with building your hidden bunker, your place to go when the economy collapses in the world, when the world economy collapses, unless you have eliminated those people and the path, those people know where you are. And their employees know where you are. So even if that super rich architect who built your bunker, stays quiet, they have secretaries. They had people working it. There's a whole string of people that know all about it. And trust me, as much as you want to believe none of them said anything, they will have told their friends, oh man, you wouldn't believe this project I did about 3 years ago, 5 years ago. And when the economy hits or it crashes and people are starving, they're going to tell their friends, hey, you know what? I helped build a bunker for a billionaire in Colorado in this location. And the word's going to get out. You multi-billionaires and super wealthy millionaires, your secrecy is about secure as a trans person going to the doctor with the idea that no one's going to be learning that they're trans. Guess what? The doctor knows, the nurse's husband or wife knows, and it just keeps spreading. And it's going to be the same for you in your bunker. You have a responsibility. It is your responsibility because you have the resources, you have the authority, you have the power, the money, the contacts. You have, as a group, 1%. You're 1, maybe 2% of the world even. Your little tiny percentage of people control 98% of everything. So, yes, it is your responsibility. And when the economy collapses in the world and everybody starts starving, they're going to come after you. You need to fix it, and you need to start fixing it now before the robots and the AI and everything else kicks in. And trust me, if one country says, okay, we'll stop doing AI and, blah, 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 that ain't going to be enough. Because you know what? Some other country out there or some other wealthy person out there, someone is greedy for power and money, they're going to pursue it. So it's not going to stop. Let's just accept the fact that AI and robots are going to take the jobs. You need to step up and get busy getting the under earth vertical farms going. You need to get the lab grown meats going, and you need to take every step you can and make every effort you can to make sure this world stays safe instead of an economic collapse that might kill everybody. It's your job, your responsibility.